Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. Our lead story today will be the arrival of Edge in AEW, now known as Adam Copeland. We'll be talking about what went wrong in his time in the WWE and what has been promised to him in AEW, including championships, a full-time schedule which is different to what he was looking for himself, next feuds, and when things started to fall apart, specifically around this year's WrestleMania time, when basically he started to look elsewhere. We also have a little bit about Mercedes Mone and her debut schedule. It's a small bit, just to be clear. A little bit on the CM Punk video that did so well on the channel over the last few days. The reliance on John Cena on SmackDown and why he's being used in such a way. Roman Reigns' return schedule. The fake news spreading about Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and why we have to be the ones to stop it. Little something about the fact that we will be going live on Wednesday for a live version of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure, so keep your eye out for that. WWE intentionally firing in order to fundraise, and that includes letting contracts run down, like the decision that the WWE made with Edge. More on that shortly. Triple H and why he's been so late to build a card for Fastlane. The tribalism of WWE versus AEW. The delay of a match that was booked for Raw tonight, that being Becky Lynch versus Tegan Nox. And Christian Cage versus Brian Alvarez. So quite a bit to cover. Some of it channel news, as you guys know. I like to slip a little bit of that in amongst the news, so you guys know where we are and what we are aiming for. But before I'd even finished that, we are currently on 24 likes, which is a record for 2 minutes into a show. So I have to start with a massive thank you to all of you. 24 likes before I've even finished reading the headlines is one hell of an achievement and one hell of a brand new record. So thank you massively for that. Getting up to that amount of likes does guarantee more people in the show. More people in the show guarantees more people in the show, etc, etc, etc. Before you know it, we are snowballing. So I've got a 31. Bloody hell. 35. Wow, okay. This is a big number. Thank you very kindly, everyone. Let's go through our hellos, answer a couple of questions. The latest, we will start our first piece of news is 10 past. That allows people to come in as well. Spider-Boss says, what's the impact of the 4 horsewomen in WWE Women's Division today? I've already covered that in the Becky Lynch video. Says, do you think Mercedes Mone could debut on AEW after Sarai's match with Shida? More on that later. Hector says, afternoon Tom, with Edge now being in AEW, honestly thought it'd be a WWE lifer, especially after being there 25 years. What long timer could you see leaving WWE next? If any, I have my eyes on Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. Spider-Boss says, according to BW, Becky Lynch won't be on Raw. More on that later. Bailey says, will Tony Khan ever commit to developing younger talent, or will he simply keep signing WWE departees? It's what really hurt WCW. There's a few people in AEW who immediately disagree with you, primarily MJF. I also think you can't really call Adam Cole a cast-off and a departee, as it were. Even though he did leave NXT, he's reinvented himself pretty succinctly in AEW, and plus plenty more, like, for example, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, etc, etc. Darby Allin did main event Wrestle Dream after all. Got to sneeze. Bear with me one sec, guys. First of all, for the YouTube side, I want to say thank you to Carl, who goes by the name of Turnbuckle Studios, trying to get up to that 25 thumbs ups. We're now at 44 minutes in. 4 minutes in and we're on 40. So Carl doing the work right there. Thank you so kindly for that. I want to say a huge thanks to everyone who's already joined us. We had plenty of people in the chat before it even went live. You can drop in and hit like even before the show starts. Michael dropped in to do that earlier on today. And it does guarantee more viewers immediately after the show starts. So it's a huge benefit. Thank you. Yes, one, there is Mercedes Mone news. Hello, everyone. Ray went crazy when Ed showed up and hit Nick Wayne. Okay. Trekipedia says, WWE being removed from Hulu today, possibly, for all shows except for SmackDown. I heard. Who exactly did you hear from? Important source. Spider-Boss says, Christian Cage roasted Brian Alvarez on the AEW media scrum. It was funny. More on that shortly. There is more to tell. Welcome, AKD. Welcome to the show. James says, I think Edge and Christian will retire together. Neither of them seem particularly keen on retiring anytime soon, I'll tell you that. Chris is here, says, good evening, Tom. Welcome, Chris. Dan says, hi, Tom. AW lost a Punk but gained an Edge. Honestly, I think they came out the better for it. Rosal says, hello, Tom. Seems like there's a lot of news. Quite a bit, yeah. Quite a bit. And the Edge news is going to be a lot. Like, a lot. Thank you, Daz. Welcome, noob. Leon says, hi, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Doing pretty well, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Jordan says, good evening, Tom. Hope you're good. So AEW is now rated R then. Little tidbit to start you off with. As regards Edge, the WWE chose not to renew their their copyright on the phrase rated R superstar. They essentially decided, we don't need this. Hello, Michael. Spider-Boss says, Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. is really good. Cheers, Carl. Danielle says, smash the like button if you haven't already. Big up Tom and chat. We are on 43 already. Just 7 more guesses to 50, which is usually where we end. So that should tell you where we are right now. That says, who do you think Edge's first match will be against in AEW? It's already been confirmed. It will be against Luchasaurus. Alyssa says, what is Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre? Don't see Cody Rhodes lose Drew McIntyre. I know you've got a lot of passion for Cody and you think he should be champion at all times. Wait for it. Curse One says, please say Mercedes Mone properly once for my enjoyment. Did you like that? Did you enjoy that? Was it important for you? Leon says, I wonder if Darby Allin is going to take time off soon. Remember earlier this year he said he plans to climb Mount Everest. Doesn't necessarily have to take too much time off for that. 23 says, hey everyone, how was your weekend? Backwards says, I was genuinely surprised Edge went to AEW. When it comes to WrestleDream, they actually fell in exactly the right spot. I'll go into more detail at the latest 3 minutes. But the Edge thing, it's not sudden. It's not an immediate last-minute decision. There's been a lot going on here and a lot worth talking about. Daniela says, LWO versus Street Profits and Lashley this Saturday for Fastlane. Suggests putting Lashley and Profits free, so who out of Joaquin Wild, Cruz del Toro, Escobar and Ray will it be to face them? I'd imagine it's round robin, but I imagine it would be not Ray. Spider-Boss says, I wonder why Edge was a part-timer in WWE, now in AEW is a full-timer. More on that very shortly. Michael says, Christian's facial expressions crack me up. The guy is... He's so much bigger now than he ever was, and I honestly think moving to AEW instead of WWE was one of the best decisions he could possibly have made. KJ says, did you say you had your eyes on Orton and Drew leaving, or are you reading a comment? I was asked basically about the next full-time, long-term WWE wrestlers who might leave to AEW. I'd have my eye on those two. Tommy says, do you think WWE won with Jade and AEW won with Edge? Yes, I think genuinely everybody won here. WWE will do great things with Jade. Edge, when it comes to AEW, will have far more of an opportunity to do what he wants to do also. Trekipedia says, Thomas on Hulu's front page itself. Thank you, Trekipedia. I appreciate that. Alyssa asks about Cody Rhodes' Fastlane plan. More on that shortly. And Trekipedia says, everyone do Tom a favour, please. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share out the stream. We are on 48. So, y'all are doing it. Buttery says, is Gargano returning after Fastlane is reported by BWE? So just to be clear, what British Wrestling Experience have reported is that after Fastlane, Gargano will return. So essentially a contracted wrestler might return at next year's WrestleMania, might return 4 years from now Royal Rumble, but it's after Fastlane, isn't it? Spider-Boss is enjoying Nigel McGuinness on AEW commentary. Robin Dave says, how are you doing, Tom? Just made it. Always glad to watch you. Thank you kindly, Robin Dave. Welcome to the show. Roger says, Nick Khan sent out an internal memo and has ordered everyone to work from home tomorrow so that they may handle all the layoffs privately. Once again, Roger, can you please give me a source for that? Because if I don't get a source, I can't trust it. 23 Fred says, is MJF really a free agent on January 1st? Once again, guys, I'll repeat. If you're going to ask questions like that, give me your source, because that's part of the answer, I promise you. If your source is Zero News, the answer is no. No. If your source is, for example, Wrestling Observer, PWInsider, Fightful, it might be something different. Noob says, your thoughts on Asuka, Charlotte Flair and Io Sky and Fastlane? I heard that Io Sky said... Andrew Quinn says, hello Tom. Wow, I didn't see the pay-per-view last night, but when I seen the video of Edge's debut, I literally went nuts. I've ordered an Edge AEW shirt early this morning. I already own Edge WWE shirt. And Adam is asking for an update on Johnny Gargano, which does not exist. So... Edge. We're 10 minutes in. We already have 76 people watching. We're at 50 likes. Those numbers just keep shooting up. Thank you kindly to everyone who's already shown that support for the channel. And thank you kindly, Martin, as well. A very generous super chat donation. Says, let's go, it's spoiler warning time. Welcome to the show, and thank you, as always, for your very, very generous support. Edge. The best way I could describe it is that when it comes to WWE, they were not particularly interested in keeping Edge. Around about WrestleMania time, it was made very clear to Edge that when it came to contract negotiations, he and the WWE were not in the same place. Largely because of disappointment with, one, how he'd been used, and two, how he wanted to be used. Edge disappointed that he wasn't used the way he wanted to be. The WWE disappointed that he wasn't agreeing to work with them in the same way. When he talks about them growing apart, their interests for his use and his character were simply completely diverging. Now, Edge was looking for a new contract, was interested not just in an increase in money, but that increase in money would come with a massive increase when it came to appearances and matches. He simply wanted to be a lot more involved than he was. But the contract that he initially signed was limited date for a reason. It was limited date because he felt he would be more involved in acting and didn't necessarily know whether he'd immediately be fit to keep going at the same level that he used to. And the WWE, by and large, while they considered him a pretty strong draw and wanted to use him pretty regularly, they were also very aware of the fact that he did have quite a serious injury. So they were trying to essentially pace themselves and take more time with it. Now, when it comes to Edge, he didn't want to pace himself. He wanted a new deal that he would be there every week. He'd be competing for championships. He'd be at the top level. He felt, given the reactions that he was getting, given his experience and pedigree, he should be competing at the top level. I personally find that very hard to argue with. The WWE, however, disagreed. The WWE were of an opinion, particularly as regards the creative use of Triple H and the like, that they would rather invest in younger up-and-coming talents like Gunther, Austin Theory, Damian Priest. I say younger up-and-coming, you get what I mean. Damian Priest is not the youngest of the competitors, but he's still relatively fresh to the view. And also Rhea Ripley, etc., etc. There's a number of people who were always going to get more airtime than Edge, even if he did get a full-time contract. Shortly after WrestleMania, when it was clear that ideas for Edge were lacking and mostly involved treading water as previous, there was just a general level of disappointment in both sides. And this led to conversations. Now, I'm not going to go into particular detail, primarily because I don't have particular detail. All I've got is a little bit of rumour and a little bit of hyperbole about a conversation that apparently took place shortly after WrestleMania, unofficially, which did not involve any sort of contract offer. You may note that this is very, very careful phrasing. That did not involve any sort of contract offer. I have not been guaranteed as to who had the conversation. I'm led to believe it may have been Christian, but once again, rumour at this point and hyperbole. Between Edge and someone representing AEW, where essentially the conversation went, we know you're not the happiest, we'd be interested. After that, other conversations took place, and before you know it, things were snowballing to a point where there was a contract ready and waiting by the time Edge arrived for AEW Wrestle Dream. He had recorded his intro video in the days ahead. That is not wrestling and as such does not technically breach a non-compete. I don't personally think there's much interest in actually going after a lawsuit here. Vince McMahon historically would do so, but I just don't see the particular urge here. Tony Khan was particularly happy to have something like this in the pipeline when it came to the CM Punk situation, and he did increase his confidence in being able to let CM Punk go, but it was a accumulation of problems for CM Punk, so Tony Khan was interested in having someone as a backup. Edge does fill that quota very, very effectively. At the moment, he's building towards a feud with Christian, a match between the two of them. Shortly following that, there will be a tag team. There are plans for them to tag once again. But as I say, post-WrestleMania, it was very clear that Edge wasn't happy. His uses after that were largely on request. He was told, we want you there for the World Heavyweight Championship tournament, but you will not be competing for the actual championship. He was told to be there for the show in Canada. He chose his opponent, that being Sheamus. There were a number of other people he wanted to work with that he didn't get the opportunity to. For example, the Cody Rhodes name was mentioned a number of times as a potential opponent for Edge, but it did not actually come off. There was also talk of Edge versus Gunther, but it was not believed that that was the right move at the time at which he was available to wrestle Gunther. So that's the situation with Edge. It is not a short-term thing, it is a long-term issue. The WWE comfortable letting Edge go, confident that they will be saving money, not looking to have him there full-time with the increase in money that would come with that. From what I can tell, there was only ever one offer made to him. It was left in his inbox, and he largely ignored it. Edge moves to AEW, where he is genuinely quite a coup there. He will do good things on that platform, I'm sure, but the WWE will not miss him, and they will reinvest that money in contracts for other people. This is genuinely a win-win for both companies. Bucks Basement says, Tom, do you believe chances are high CM Punk is going to return at Survivor Series? No. Backward says, I have a feeling they're building towards Bobby Lashley beating Rey Mysterio for the US title. I definitely think Street Profits and Bobby Lashley, and potentially Bianca Belair if she does join that crew, could end up being the next Judgment Day and having 4 championships. This year was a year of Judgment Day. Next year, I feel, is a year of Bobby Lashley and his faction. Daniela says, on SmackDown, Ray was the one who issued the challenge. Maybe he did it for the rest of LWO. Maybe they will need a third person, and it will not, in fact, be the LWO tag team. Or maybe Escobar will be injured and have to sit out. Spider-Boss says, do you think Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, will put over young talent in AEW? He'll be wrestling Luchasaurus on Dynamite. That's a very good start. Powerpuff has asked, what do you mean no? I don't think I could be any more clear than the word no. 23 Fresh says, have you heard any news on the grand jury on VKM? Nope, not a thing. And even if I did, it would not be something that I'd be confident reporting on this platform. KJ says, you think Randy would leave, maybe because they don't clear him, but won't he be under a deal for a long time plus added time from his injury? There is no point having him on a WWE deal if WWE are not planning to have him wrestle. Michael says, the way Tony talked about Jade offering her more money than she asked for, she must have had her heart set on WWE, so more power to her. I do think now, as part of the rotation of wrestlers, a level of rotation we've not actually seen since the WCW days, as part of that rotation, there are going to be under-the-table discussions happening all the time now. I think, unfortunately, that's something that people like Vince McMahon are just going to have to accept. Roger says, do you think Edge will win any AEW title? I would expect so, yes. Hector says, I don't know how you feel, Tom, but personally I feel like Edge's return from injury and the path they took after that didn't seem like it went how either WWE or Edge expected it to go, and that sucks. That is exactly what I've reported, yes. Buck says, hey Tom, who do you think will debut first, Kairi Sane or Jade Cargill? Jade Cargill all the way. Ross says, evening all. Welcome, Ross. Roger sends his sources, JD from NY206. Roger, it's wrong. If your source is JD from NY, it's wrong. Hey JJ, how you doing, mate? KJ says, do you think everything would have been different if Vince was still heavily involved? Depends what you mean by different. Like, him being there would automatically be different, but it depends what you mean by different. Nice, Clyde. You go for it. Welcome to the show, mate. We do currently have 88 viewers watching. The numbers do continue to climb, largely because of how many likes we already have on the show. We started with 24 before I even finished the headlines. We're currently on 56. Four more will get us to 60, which is one of the highest for a spoiler warning we've had in quite a few weeks now. So please consider giving me that 4 more and see the numbers increase of viewership as well. And also, if it's your first time here, please do consider subscribing. We are at a current record level of 5,270, and honestly, while I do love me a record broken only needs one subscriber more will be a record breaker. If you haven't subscribed yet, you could be my record breaker. Eric says, hi Tom, do you think the initial version of Edge's Judgment Day was one of the reasons he was unhappy with his booking? No, the initial version of Judgment Day was almost exactly how he booked it. So there was no real issue there. Everyone was happy to work with that. And then afterwards, he wanted to move on and do other things and, put over Judgment Day. So in many ways, he did give back. Powerpuff, what the hell is that? Screw Edge because they They stole him? You need to calm down. Everybody won here. Martin says, could Edge naming dates, days, etc. put TK into a problem, i.e. tapping up? Yes, it could. However, it is a case that I just don't think it's more as palatable as it used to be to reach out with these lawsuits, especially knowing that they could go right back with Jade Cargill. I think they're just sort of accepting it. Razar says, I think Edge did what he could. He was often the flat points of PLEs, in my opinion, when he was involved. AEW is a fresh start for him, so good for him. There was a lack of quality storylines for Edge, and I don't feel his work with the Judgment Day was particularly well received. The work with Seth Rollins, though, I've got to say, was very well received. Matches with Roman went pretty well. It's just, he wasn't top level when he returned for me, personally. Martin says, still think AEW have to be careful. They don't do the WCW road, just my opinion. And you're entitled to that, mate. By all means, share. Ray says, the Wrestle Dream main event was one of the greatest main events in AEW. One of the best main event matches of 2023. Spiderboss says, do you think CM Punk could return to WWE? Anything is possible. Roger says, Kenny Omega continues to lose since his relationship with Don Callis was severed. That was a hot 6-man tag team match. Can't wait to see Takashita versus Ibushi when the time comes. Trekipedia says, Tom, if WWE gets removed from Hulu today, where would next day rights go to? No one. They'd be open at the moment for negotiation. The reason they're being delayed is because they haven't got the deal they're looking for from anyone else. Martin says, where does this leave Beth Phoenix? Is she still under contract with WWE? She has been for a while. I don't know if it technically was still going. She was working with NXT, as we know, and she's been under contract since for at least temporary appearances. I suspect that contract's quietly expired a while ago. Dan says, I can see a Sting, Darby Allin, Adam Copeland versus Christian, Luchasaurus, Nick Wayne match on the cards. That is indeed on the cards. They're going to protect Edge quite strongly early on. It's going to take a while, to get used to saying Adam Copeland. It really is. Okay, so Powerpuff, you're in timeout. Firstly, don't wish for people to be released. That's not on in any way, shape or form. That's just absolutely unnecessary. And secondly, stop with the whole stealing thing. Wrestlers go to different places. Wrestlers can have their own opinions, and wrestlers can make their own choices. If someone knocks on my door now and says, hey, do you want to come and do this? And I say, yes. They've not stolen me. I've made a choice. Grow up. One says, hey Tom, TK mentioned in an interview that he offered Jade Cargill 2 huge money contracts and she still said no. I believe that is the case. Yes. Spiderboss says it was short the Judgment Day running WWE. Rhea will be mad after Dom lost. The intention was that with Becky Lynch now holding that championship, Dominic Mysterio doesn't need to be that involved when it comes to it. They can draw eyes with Becky. They don't necessarily need too many people. Dan says, any news on the deal of ITV? Seem to have now. They're also showing Wrestle Dream after showing All In. No news that I have at this point in time. I have no contacts in that field. Blue says, do you know if Becky Lynch is cleared for tonight? More on that shortly. One says, Edge is CM Punk's replacement. And Mercedes Money is Jade Cargill's replacement for TK. Tom, more on that shortly, but pretty much. Brad says, JD from NY is not a source you want to use. I agree. Roger says, I think Edge will have a feud with Christian. Says Christina, but I'm assuming Christian. And become TNT champion. I can see that happening as well. Alyssa says, did Edge want to win the title from Roman Reigns? Yeah, otherwise he wouldn't have gone in the ring with him. Hector says, I've been watching WWE since the late 90s. I don't know if it's a direct result, but I'm glad WWE is finally investing heavily in the future instead of beating a dead horse, if you will, constantly shoving legends and returning old stars. It's a change I don't think I'd ever see. The WWE have this mindset, especially under the previous regime. I did report early on when Triple H became head of creative that there was going to be a changing of the guard when it came to part-timers, which is why people such as, for example, Goldberg, weren't contacted about an extension. Let's go into our next piece of news. This is as regards a tidbit regards Mercedes Money. Now, Mercedes Money was fully aware that Edge would be debuting in AEW. In fact, quite a lot of people backstage in AEW were aware, while Edge was still under WWE contract, that Edge would be debuting in AEW, though contract, to be clear, from what I've heard, was not signed until the actual day of Wrestle Dream, when it, of course, could be legally done so. Mercedes knew and dropped hints to it. With this in mind as well, I was able to get a small update. Because of her injury still in play, she is not expected to debut in AEW in a wrestling capacity at this point until around next year. I know that's really open-ended. As I say, it's a very small piece of news, but we are not expecting to see Mercedes in AEW wrestling during this calendar year. I have reported previously she is expected to sign a deal. She may have already signed a deal, but AEW typically make you sign deals where until you have your first wrestling match, it doesn't actually kick in, you don't get paid, and it's not official. 23 says, who's the next person to leave AEW for the WWE? No idea. Roger says, will Beth Phoenix make an appearance in AEW? No idea. If she wants to, probably. Ross says, I thought although losing to Edge, he did put over Grayson Waller in my view. That wasn't necessarily under request of WWE. There were quite a few people that he wanted to work with. Wiggly says, Edge versus Christian at Wembley would be great. I mean, that could be fun. C-Max says, good afternoon, Tom. Do you see Jade making a debut this Saturday? Not necessarily. I don't think they should rush her. And honestly, I think Becky Lynch would be the perfect person to debut against in NXT. So that's where I would go, and it may take a little while longer before we can do that. KJ says, okay, so do you think Edge would have been happy and got his way more if Vince was still the main man running creative opposed to Triple H? You said Edge wasn't the happiest. Edge wasn't the happiest. I don't think it would have been much different, no. I do think he might have signed a new deal under Vince McMahon, but I don't think he would have got what he was looking for. Razar says, do you think Jade is going to be main roster since they showed her on SmackDown but didn't mention her on NXT during the PLE? To my knowledge, that's just the first show after she'd already signed a deal. The other Mike says, putting someone over doesn't always equate to wins, losses. It's all about getting that rub. The Grayson Waller rub, and Grayson Waller has rubbed a lot of people in his time, is very telling. KJ says, anything was possible. Martin says, by the way, the Rated R Superstar, how have AEW got around that one, or does Adam Copeland own it? Nobody owns it. WWE, I said this at the beginning, I'll reiterate quickly. WWE intentionally allowed their copyright of the Rated R Superstar brand to lapse. If they were actually trying to be spiteful here, they would have renewed it before letting Edge go. Or in fact after. But they would have renewed it. WWE, from what I can tell, Triple H, for example, genuinely wish him well and hope he enjoys himself. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat. Welcome Marcel, good to see you mate. Spider-Boss says, I think Edge's rivalry with the Judgment Day went too long. Edge appeared early every time Judgment Day took him out. No need to be sorry Martin, don't you worry about it. Bailey says, any news on... You're right, more on this shortly. Roger says, does WWE own the name Edge? For a wrestler, yes. Andy says, hello Tom, welcome Andy. Kelly says, great to see you. Great to see you too mate, welcome. KJ says, coincidence, Adam's first match is on Tuesday next week when they're going head-to-head with NXT. I mean, if they want to get the ratings, that's the way to do it. Callie says, evening Tom, welcome Callie. Blue says, I like Edge, but his age and desire to be in a place on the card which should be reserved for younger wrestlers meant I kind of got over seeing him in WWE. Will says, if you could guess who you think will beat Becky for the NXT title, easy, Jade Cargill. KJ says, Edge turns 50 on the 30th this month. Damn, yes, but to be fair, he can absolutely still go. Can absolutely still go. Hello Sean, how you doing mate? I caught some of No Mercy Razar, primarily the final match. KJ, yes, I have absolute confidence that Mercedes is going to AEW. Mr. Stumble says, any new CM Punk news? Any good clickbait articles to read? Right, so the CM Punk video that I put out was a slightly different style. I've had plenty of feedback, and in fact, I had more than 40 comments on that one video alone, which massively boosted the number of views I got. Now, when it comes to the CM Punk video, it had more than 2,000 views and gained a lot of new subscribers. I'm obviously very happy with it, but with the change in style, for those who did watch it, please let me know what you thought of the style change and whether you want to see similar videos in future, similar format I should say, on different topics. What would you be interested in the deep dives on? Please let me know. Ray says, do you think Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega will challenge for the AEW tag team titles? Makes sense. They're right there. They'd be a great match. One says, hey Tom, do you think it was wrong for TK to show his hand, saying he he'd take less to stay on Warner Brothers Discovery. Pretty stupid. It depends. He's not one of those who hides things too much. Business-wise, that's a risk, but also he's got a lot of money, so I don't really worry. Spider-Boss says, do you think Mercedes Mone could appear in AEW but as a manager? Technically, yes, but I don't see the benefit to it, per se. She wants to wrestle. Eric says, funny how 3 of the 5 wrestlers that main evented WrestleMania in 2021 are not with WWE anymore. Danielson, Edge, and soon Mercedes will be all elite. I think this is very refreshing. I agree. You're freshening up the top of the card on both shows with that rotation, and it's helping. It's genuinely helping. I'm very happy about it. No, Sean, Metalingus is not owned by WWE. That particular song, there is no copyright to it that the WWE hold, and Edge is free to use it as he wishes. Martin says, wait, there are 2 Martins out. There's one Martin, one Martin. I think we should get used to seeing these trades. I agree. And honestly, I'm very excited for it. More of these going forwards can only be a good thing. No worries, KJ. Appreciate that. Powerpuff, I literally just told you not to talk about the whole stealing thing, and you've immediately come back and started with the stealing thing. It's not stealing. If someone's contract expires, they're free to go wherever they want. What it's called is free will, and what I don't like is the fact that you're annoyed that someone made a choice that you disagree with. It's not your choice. It's not your choice at all. It's entirely up to them. Callie says, wow, your subscribers have rocketed. Well done. Thank you, Callie. I appreciate that. We have reached, shall we say, a brand new level, and I'm very, very happy with the numbers that we've been achieving. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who is helping with that. Every like, every subscription, every comment on a video like this massively helps the growth of the channel. So huge thank you to all of you. And of course, all of those views on videos like the CM Punk video do wonders for the channel. Hector says, I don't know if anyone has mentioned it, but it's kind of a smart move to let Edge have the Rated R Superstar and also not caring about the Metalingus theme, because honestly it will most likely drive traffic to Peacock. AEW fans who aren't WWE may want to watch his matches. There's a bit the other way and a bit back and forth, as it were, but for those who watch AEW and don't watch WWE, you just found out that Edge was back and you missed it. Thank you, Callie, for renewing your subscription for a 7th month for the channel supporter. I very much appreciate it. Dan says, any news on Maria May and AEW? That was on Friday, spoiler warning. By all means, check it out. It is there. Oh, right, as regards the Punk video. Bailey says, the style format is very effective. Thank you. Michael says, really like the new format of the Punk video. Appreciate that. Thank you kindly. C-Max says, could you see Ali being next to go to AEW? If they want him, yes, and I think everybody probably will. Gordy, I'm not going to read that out loud. All I will say is sorry to hear that. And if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. KJ says, hey Tom, congrats on hitting over 5k subs. I've totally missed it. Remember the day you hit 1k and then it went down and went back up. Yeah, that was a time, wasn't it? So I know you. I know you've been here a long time, but sometimes I lose track because we're approaching the point of me being. We're approaching the point where I've been doing this for 3 years, and getting up beyond 5,000 subscribers is a wonderful thing. Now, as many of you guys know, a large part of that was YouTube advertising and the like, and it has helped the viewership and helped the numbers. And we're seeing some real spikes in the videos lately. So I'm very, very happy, and I very much appreciate it. Congrats. Martin says, I really liked the Punk video. Think any kind of videos in that style will be bangers, even if you do more historic topics. So I'm glad people enjoyed it. I think there was enough. I'm looking for on-screen variation, basically. Thank you very much, Pete, for renewing your subscription to the channel supporter for a 10th month. Very much appreciate you, and thank you very much for your generosity. So yeah, that's a format that I feel could really work. I was looking for on-screen variation and covering different areas and just having a bit more excitement on screen, and I think we achieved that. Also, it immediately provides sourcing and information for exactly what I'm saying. You know? I'm very happy with it. Stumble says, when does Brian Pillman Jr. team with Dominic to be Legacy 2.0 and NXT 2.0? Yeah, no. Spider-Boss says, it's surprised how long it have taken the recovery of Mercedes money? Not really, it was a broken ankle. Brad says, quite rightly, it's a free market system. Yes, it is. And Martin says, smash those likes. We do have 94 people currently watching. Sorry, 97 people currently watching. And 67 likes. 3 more gets us to 70. 70, of course, reaching a new record for this stream. KJ says, 40 comments on the Punk video. Would you like me to add 40 more? If you have anything to share as regards that Punk video, by all means, jump in. By all means, jump in. And I really enjoyed some of the discussions I've had. There were people who started chatting who I didn't necessarily think I'd agree with, but over the course of it, I found myself connecting with them quite well. There's one who I thought was a troll, but by the end of it, honestly, I'm very much happy with their intentions, and I look forward to seeing more of them. I like it when people ask me questions, debate points, try and hold me to account. This is all really valuable stuff that tells me what you want in future. Really valuable. Blue says, Tom, went to the WWE Super Show in San Fran this weekend, now going to Dynamite this Wednesday. It's okay to just enjoy pro wrestling. Yes, it is. BM says, let's be honest, can you imagine not coming out to Metalingus? What a world that would have been. WWE are relying heavily on John Cena at the moment for both SmackDown and Fastlane. The WWE essentially, when contacting John Cena to bring him back, told him they wanted a temporary replacement for Roman Reigns. As such, John Cena had been treated as the top guy on SmackDown, and for at least another month, he will be at the very top of the list on the face side. Roman Reigns is due to return in the next couple of weeks. I would expect him to be back almost immediately after Fastlane. He will be dealing with John Cena in the way that we all expect him to. There is also, of course, AJ Styles, who may be looking for a bit of revenge. So Roman Reigns returning, he suddenly, as has not happened for a long time, he suddenly will be beset in all areas. Ray says, I'll always give your stream a thumbs up. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that. We did, in fact, reach 70 and now 72. Dimitar says, I'm going to guess Mercedes will not be full-time like Edge. I've reported previously that does not seem likely at this point in time. Juan says, hey Tom, do you think Edge will actually be the draw TK wants him to be? Punk disappointed big time. Punk drew. There's no question of that. So if you want a draw, that was working. It's everything else that was a problem. Stu Ridley, welcome mate. Thank you for your kind words previously, by the way. Says, hi Tom, late in just saying hello and going to the start. Thank you kindly. I do know quite a few people now will drop in and then rewind and watch the show again, and I really enjoy that. So thank you kindly, guys, and thank you, Stuart. King Azza says, hey Tom, do you think Edge will win a championship? Yes, I do. Ed is here, says, hey folks, welcome Ed. KJ says, I like both WWE and AEW, but I prefer WWE as I've been with it for 11 years now. I'm not one to take part in tribalism or want to hate talent who leaves, but it is a bit sad to see them go. I agree, and I do feel that people are interpreting sadness as anger, and by which I mean they feel sad and they've decided that makes them angry. It's all very reactive and unnecessary. KJ Rally's following up. Happy for them, and they're only a channel away. Hello Gomar, how are you? Spider-Boss says, since Jey Uso went to Raw, which superstar from Raw will go to SmackDown? I still expect it to be Cody, but it might take until after War Games to do so. Martin says, Tom, kind of a weird question. Do you like any wrestler in Stardom? I'm not particularly familiar with Stardom. What I've seen, I've enjoyed. I was quite into it when Dakota Kai was there under Evie. If you've not seen her wrestling in Stardom, check it out. Mr. Stumble says, does CM Punk drink coffee? He does not. Alyssa says, should Drew McIntyre go into AEW do nothing in WWE? He's feuding with Cody Rhodes. You yourself mentioned this earlier. Hello, Squid. How are you? Yeah, no worries, KJ. We went from 2,600 up to about 5k pretty quickly. Like, pretty quickly. I did promise a while back, I don't know if you've been here when I've been discussing it, I did promise a while back that any donations, any channel memberships, any investment that you guys make into this channel will go back into this channel, will go into the growth of this channel. So any money that I make from this channel for the next year or so, and for the year previous, now that I've got a bit more capital behind it, will go on, for example, new editing software, upgrades to the streaming PC to upgrade the quality of the stream. I'll get it like a decent graphics card, nothing major, but we'll just upgrade the quality of the streams. And also for advertising, revenues and the like, I'm experimenting with a few different options to help the growth of the channel as well. Sean says, thoughts on Trick Williams dethroning Dominic? I wonder if that was going to be Mustafa Ali winning. I suspect it would have been. Brad says, Carmelo Dragunov was an amazing match. I will say that. Roger says, who'll be the better signing, Jade Cargill or Mercedes Martinez? I'm guessing you mean Mercedes Money, and that will basically be based on what they do first. Powerpuff suggests Roman versus AJ Styles a crown jewel. I've mentioned that myself previously. King Azza says, hey Tom, do you think Roman will face Cena a crown jewel? He could. Personally, I think Cena versus Solo is more likely. DC, how you doing, mate? Says, hello Tom, sorry for my long absence, but unlike some others, I'm truly happy for Edge. The only thing that concerns me is Tony Khan doesn't create or make stars in his company. I disagree with that. I think MJF is the biggest example, but you've also got names like Darby Allin, who did main event. You've got plenty of other people who are heavily involved, really growing as well as wrestlers. So I know that he was handed quite a lot of high quality stars anyway, but I do feel Kenny Omega has come forwards, as well as many other wrestlers like Hangman Page, for example. C-Max says, do you see Swerve getting a major push now and possibly a title? It's hard to say any major pushes exist in AEW because there is a lot of rotation. Wiggly says, can you see Edge winning the AEW title? Yes. God. Roger says, who has a better roster, WWE or AEW? Depends whose fans you're pitching for. When it comes to WWE fans, I'd say WWE has a better roster. When it comes to AEW fans, I'd say AEW has a better roster. Different people want different things. Wiggly says, I don't get this anger at Edge going to AEW, who is out of contract, and AEW offered better options. Business is business. Yeah, people are angry because it's business, and what they want is what they want, and other people aren't allowed to do different things. It's not good. It's not good. There was a report out over the last few days that Triple H and Stephanie McMahon had divorced. Kevin Nash recently poured a lot of cold water on it. To my knowledge, it ain't even close to true. The CM Punk video was largely about misinformation. Thank you very much, Dylan, renewing your subscription on Twitch for a 24th month, a solid 2 years. Thank you kindly for that. Fake news spreads purely through rumour, and it is no longer profitable to be honest when it comes to the internet. So, this particular piece of news from Ringside News would have garnered them millions of views. Millions. People who didn't necessarily believe it, but needed to read it. Millions. Okay? And it isn't true. Tomorrow, people will still be clicking on sources from that website. People will still be listening to that fake news. Not only that, but their hits via Google will shoot up because they're being featured in a lot more sources, and because they're being featured in a lot of different places, Google sees that as positive. There is no more reward in being honest apart from your own morals. That is also one of the reasons I made the video on CM Punk, where we cover how misquotes lead to greater traffic and greater views. There is a reason, as you guys know, that my main source for that video was House of Wrestling. Also, before we get to the further news, on Wednesday, midnight for the UK audience, I'm somewhat limited as to the time options, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for American audiences, there will be a live taping of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure. We will be live on Wednesday at those times. If you can join us, I'd be very grateful. We will, of course, be talking Fastlane, and I'd very much appreciate the support of as many of you as possible. We don't get Nick on the channel very often. I'd like to try and make it about a once-a-month thing to basically go through pay-per-view previews, and it also will mean that any questions you ask will go live on PWTorch's Daily Cast as well. So, if you have questions, if you're not going to be there, that's absolutely fine. By all means, send me the questions on, either via the community page or via my Twitter. You can, of course, find that at Colohue, which is Colohue, up there. And of course, we'd very much appreciate if you're able to ask these questions, to keep the chat going, to drop in and say hi. Thank you very much, Pete, for a subscription on Twitch using your Prime account to do so. I very much appreciate you now subscribing on 2 platforms. Once again, very generous, very grateful. Thank you. Brad says wrestlers leaving is a healthy thing during the 90s and is a healthy thing today. KJ says, to be honest, I'll say I'm surprised that Adam used the WWE theme in the nickname. Thought he'd have a complete overhaul to how creative he is. The Judgment Day, for example. I haven't had too many answers about this, but from what I can tell, he's pitching his own character, and it's extremely similar to how he started in WWE when he returned from injury. Eric says, a little off topic, but in my opinion, NXT is hotter than ever. A lot of potential stars and a general vibe that doesn't feel ridiculous like the early stages of 2.0. Shawn Michaels, I feel, is doing a very good job, and he's been given the right people to work with. Spider-Boss says, I wonder when Carmelo Hayes and Bron Breakker will get called up to the main roster. Wiggly says, Tony Khan has created stars. MJF, Kenny Omega, debatable on Kenny Omega. Darby Allin, Hikaru Shida, even Britt Baker. Britt Baker's fair. KJ says, Punk was a big draw, but in my opinion it fizzled out due to him being on TV every week. I think Edge will draw for AEW, but not as much as Punk, and then it may fizzle out as well due to him being full-time. Jay says, how long is Edge's contract with AEW? I do not have those details, unfortunately. JJ says, do you plan on reading Becky's book, Tom? It's already #1 bestseller in wrestling, even though it's not out till next year. I find it likely. I'm invested in the character and in the person, so yeah, I'm down for that. Dylan just says, 2 years, bud. 2 years, mate. Thank you kindly. KJ says, I'll admit, Adam Copeland, yes, that's his name, brings a lot of momentum. They've been kind of stale since All In. I wonder if Edge will help sell tickets. To be fair, All In was a month ago. Yeah, they've struggled a little bit since then. Reckon they're going to be okay. Wiggly says, let me remind people wrestlers are real people. With families to support, bills to pay, etc. They consider that first before the feelings of fans. King Azza says, hey Tom, do you want Solo to beat Cena? My opinion, if Cena wins, he will kill the momentum of Solo. No, and I don't think he will. Callie says, haven't really watched AEW, but from what I can see, they have loads of different champions, a lot more than WWE. Yeah, there's a lot more championships involved. So does New Japan. Powerpuff. Now, to be clear, you've said Kevin Nash lied about Triple H since 2011 with Triple H, CM Punk and Nash himself. I'm going to give you one clear chance here. You've got 5 minutes. What are you talking about? And if you're wrong, that'll be that. Chris says, if Edge does win the AEW title, do you think he goes ahead and gives the rub to guys who should be in that contention who still haven't got their shot? Yes. C-Mac says, I always believe Jon Moxley has done better in... I also believe Jon Moxley has done better in AEW. He absolutely has. The dude says, Tom, did you see Ringside News misquote Rick Boogs and make him look bad? Since deleted the post, just sad to say state of wrestling journalism these days. Wiggly says, if Triple H and Stephanie had divorced, we would know because we'd hear a massive thunderclap in the sky. Interesting. Eric says, AJ Styles has overcome his issues with Paul Heyman, considering they're now working, even if indirectly, on the same feud. Eric, if you want to check out my main YouTube channel and the videos there is a video directly discussing AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns. Your answer is, your question is answered there. So, Alyssa, you're asking me if The Rock is returning to Australia. Why? Eric says, good evening, Tom. What is the percentage of Kairi Sane returning to the WWE? I don't want to give a percentage, just know that she hasn't signed the deal as of yet. Powerpuff, that wasn't real. That was kayfabe. I need you to know the difference, otherwise this is definitely the wrong place for you. Stumble says, Stephanie McMahon to go back to Kurt Angle, like the old Attitude Era days. Brad says, Ringside News is horribly fake news. Yeah. Michael says, I don't think I've ever been so excited for a feud in AEW as I am for MJF versus Jay White. Anything involving Jay White, I'm going to be very, very happy. MJF. Oof. Wiggly says, Tom, would you consider doing a Dynamite watch-along? No. Pete forgot he was here. KJ says, I like that you always use the word rotation when talking about wrestling rosters and pushes. It's literally what both companies do, especially the pushes. It's the best word. I just think that's the best way to describe it. It's a lot of rotating in and out, using different wrestlers at different times. Okay, Powerpuff, go away. You're done. Hector says, Tom, what do you think of the booking of the Ring of Honor tag titles? Kind of makes tag teams look weak when they lose to one-man tag teams. It's a little odd. I haven't really looked too deeply into it. That's all I can really say at that point. I've not watched enough AEW to speculate. KJ says, I didn't think the Steph Triple H thing was true, but I'm happy it isn't, because what if it had an impact on Triple H running creative? Will says, as a fan of both companies, Edge and Mercedes to AEW, and WWE getting Jade and Kyrie soon, the wrestling business is good. Ray is sick of Judgment Day being on all free shows. Chris Leclerc says, happy 24th birthday to Sky Blue. The WWE are actively firing wrestlers with the intention of fundraising to keep certain other wrestlers. This also includes the letting go of Edge. A large part of that was fundraising for the upcoming contract renewals of wrestlers such as Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch. A large part of this is that the budget that they were given does not necessarily include contract renewals. And they want to spare a bit of money for people like Pat McAfee appearances, Logan Paul appearances, etc. Pardon me. Drew McIntyre is looking for championships and an increase in money, as you might expect. Each new contract should bring an increase in money with it, but it does mean they have to essentially cut a few corners and make that available. It's also why we're not seeing a renewal with Hulu. The WWE are actively negotiating with a number of different potential buyers for the next day cinematography, and with that should come an increase in revenue for them as well, but they're not getting the offers that they were looking for. With this in mind as well, a lot does hinge on the Raw and NXT deals, which is why they now have Becky Lynch on NXT as well, to try and guarantee higher money. But there are still people, as I've mentioned, on that cost-benefit analysis list. People are not guaranteed long-term to be okay if the WWE does not have the increase that they're looking for. Letting Edge go is an integral part of increasing that revenue. We currently have 78 likes. 2 more gets us to 80. If you can be the 2, don't be the 1, be the 2. And make that happen for me. I'd be very grateful. KJ says, I don't think Jade and Kyrie are as even as Edge and Mercedes. I think Punk needs to help even it out, but it doesn't have to be that way. Good to see big names showing up elsewhere. Mr. Stumble says, is play an adjective or a verb? It's a verb. You came to play. You came to do something. Sean said, did you see Becky on Insight? You talked about the Big Time Bex character. Said she loved it and loved playing on TV and she's been pitching to bring it back. Yeah, much like Seth Rollins, she just liked the freedom of it. KJ says, NXT 2.0 is fine from the start. People only like it now because it's the Twitter narrative. King Azza says, hey Tom, would you rather see The Rock versus Roman or Cody versus Roman? Solo versus Roman. Sean says, was there ever a pitch for Logan Paul versus Edge? Not to my knowledge. That doesn't mean there wasn't, that just means I don't know about it. Blue says, AEW doesn't rotate that much. It's on the fringes, but if you're watching the shows, you'll almost always see a core 15 pretty much every week, injuries notwithstanding. Roger says, who do you think CJ Perry will manage in AEW? I think Andrade El Idolo. There's an obvious call there. Spider-Boss says, at this point, who do you see beating Rhea Ripley for the women's world title? Becky. Mr. Stumble says, what's next for Ava Raine? They've given some options there, and I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I'm sure they'll be pitching new things for her, but it's not something I personally know. Chris says, that would explain Hunter meeting with Jeff Bezos at that fashion show some weeks ago. Yes, it would. They are trying to massively increase their revenues, and they are listening to all comers. Wiggly says, one of my friends who seems really angry that Edge is in AEW claims that it didn't get a huge pop. Forgive me, but that reaction to Edge debuting in AEW was pretty huge. Yes, it was. People can get very bitter. The reason Triple H is late to announcing the matches for WWE Fastlane is because he wasn't 100% confident he'd have the wrestlers he wanted to get involved. There's a few people, for example Tommaso Ciampa, who are going to be on that pay-per-view, who are going to be wrestling Gunter, who may not necessarily have been altogether involved if certain people and certain cost-benefit analysis lists got their way. Triple H was not confident of having people, so he didn't want to announce them in matches, knowing that they could be pulled at any time and screw up that pay-per-view. You may note that I reported on Friday he's looking to increase his rotation to feature a lot of wrestlers who he believes may be on the chopping block. You then saw that happen during the watch-along on SmackDown as well. Hector says, Tom, did you see USA Network released an article hyping up the arrival of Brian Pillman Jr.? Gives me the indication they have big plans for him, also I hope. Sean says Ava and Joe could get repackaged. Yep. I mentioned on Friday as well about wrestlers being told you're going to repackage, so come up with a storyline. Mr. Stumble says, do you like Metalingus or Rob Zombie for Edge's theme song? I miss his Rob Zombie song. I think both of them are incredibly catchy and incredibly fun. Wiggly says, also, I didn't realise the intro now goes, you think you know him, instead of you think you know me. So that actually technically is still copyrighted. Copyright anything these days. Trekkie PD says, more good wrestling means more happy fans. That is a good thing, so I don't mind Edge and others going to other brands. We've seen it before. One brand, not a good thing. I agree. The monopoly was not positive. Dimitar says, BWE said there's going to be a championship match today, which was at first meant to be the PLE. Do you know anything about this? No. But it's not unusual. I think every go-home show before a pay-per-view has featured at least one championship match that's been taken off the pay-per-view. That happens all the time. I reported that right after SummerSlam last year. It's not really a story. Hey, Daniel, how you doing, mate? Dan says, went to the shop, got supplies, happy to see you're still on. King Arthur says, do you think Cody's been shoved down the fans' throats? No, but I think he's been featured very heavily. Spider-Boss says, sometimes I don't get the booking of the NXT women's division. Okay. And Wiggly says, as I said before, how can you have Edge, Adam Copeland not come out to Metalingus? Sean says, do you have anything on BW saying Becky isn't cleared for tonight? So, let's go into this because that is actually next. Fightful reported that Becky Lynch is currently dealing with a shoulder injury, and as such, her match with Tegan Nox has been pulled. It's been delayed. It has not been cancelled. BWE did not report that. Fightful did. Okay? That's what I had on that one. As I say, the match is being delayed. It is not believed to be a long-term injury to Becky Lynch. She will still be defending the championship in the weeks to come. It just means that Tegan Nox will have to wait a little bit longer. That match was not planned to be on the Nope. Pardon me. Was not planned to be on the Fastlane pay-per-view. To be clear, that match was always planned to be on Monday Night Raw. Trekipedia says, was the end of an era thing by Tony Khan, Edge debuting? Kind of. There's a lot more to it than that. Noob says, I don't like Bayley speaking up for Io Sky because that's holding her back. Yep, that's the storyline, yeah. That's kayfabe. Alyssa says, do you see Roman keeping the belt past WrestleMania 40? No, but I didn't see him keeping it past 39 either. Martin says, makes sense, especially have the Mustafa Ali match, then release 1 week before it. KJ says, do you think WWE will react after the Edge debut in AEW? No, not in any way, shape or form. They knew it was going to happen. C-Max says, do you think that Danielson would want to capture the championship before retiring, or is he satisfied just having memorable matches? The latter. The latter. So, 2 more things to discuss. Firstly, tribalism. We've discussed it a little bit here, but I just want to be extremely clear. If you are one of those people who are angry at Edge for making a choice that's right for him, you don't belong here. If you're one of those people who's angry at Jade Cargill for abandoning AEW, you don't belong here. That's all I really want to say. I work hard to cultivate a community here where we are open-minded, informed, and capable of good debate. It's all part of what I call, or have termed in on the Discord, the good faith agreement. This is valuable. This is important. Losing your mind because another wrestling company exists, there is no good faith argument. Tribalism has no value. Tribalism here is not wanted, nor will it be permitted, as in fact I've been able to prove already. Goodbye, Powerpuff. And finally, a little piece of news, and all I've got to say is that Christian genuinely hates Brian Alvarez. Yeah. A lot of people in AEW really hate Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez now. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but yeah. They are not happy at all with the Wrestling Observer. Yes, it was genuine. Spider-Boss says, do you think Shawn Michaels has plans for Roxanne Perez in NXT, or she could get called up to the main roster? If they don't have plans for an NXT, that doesn't mean they should call her up to the main roster. It shouldn't be a case of, oh, we have no plans for her, you can have no plans for her too. Sean says, Brie Garcia, formerly known as Brie Bella, and now she'll be returning to wrestling once her son is old enough. Wiggly says, regarding tribalism, do people watch sports or know people who hold jobs? People often move to other companies for work. Sorry guys, just catching up. Yeah. Martin says, wrestling media have really got fans going on CM Punk, so they've done their job. Clearly. Brad says, will Sasha come to AEW? I've reported on Sasha Banks, or Mercedes Mone as she is now, extensively. What I want you to do is pop over to the video side and check the video which details it. Wikipedia says, I was afraid after Trick 1 they were going to reverse the decision due to the ref being knocked out by Dominic. Mr. Stumble says, what if I'm an Impact only fan now? I said that Edge didn't sign with them to have a Bully Ray feud. Oof. You can be upset, just don't be angry, it's pointless. Martin says, Thomas said many times the higher-ups don't want him. All the confirmation I need. Brad says, stop all tribalism. Wikipedia says, meaning they'd say it was a DQ and Trick still won. Gotcha. Roger says, I have no problems with wrestlers signing with another company. KJ says, BW is just debunking himself. He said yesterday that a tag title match would happen at Fastlane. Now that he may be wrong, he said it was planned for Fastlane, but moved. Mine just saying, media has spun it so well. I'm guessing you really enjoyed that video, mate. Dan says, tribalism is nonsense. The wrestlers think it's dumb. Love pro wrestling. Miss AC has asked 2 questions. Firstly, Sasha Banks' return once again. Pop over to the video side. It's literally my most viewed video detailing the future for Mercedes Mone. You also say you reported Jade won't move to WWE. I don't recall doing that, no. Did I, and I've just forgotten? Let me know if I did. Did I report that Jade would not be moving to the WWE? KJ says, BW is also teasing, okay, a lot too. Is that mad? Eric says, hi Tom, sorry I missed most of this episode. No need to be sorry, mate. Welcome to the show. Always glad to see you. Nas says they hate the Observer because they aren't an unbiased source who've gone on tape to say they're friends with some talent they report on. Most reporting appears to be one-sided. Martin says Punk clearly wants to go to WWE, but doesn't mean WWE want him. Big difference. Spider-Boss says, nice 4 Horsewomen reference made by Charlotte on last Friday on SmackDown. And Michael says, Tom never said that Jade would not be signing with the WWE. And to be fair, Michael is very clear on what I do report and is very reliable in holding me to account when I do get things wrong, which I appreciate, Michael. Please do continue to do so. Wikipedia says, No Mercy was awesome and I loved the opening too. KJ says, tribalism! Brad says, I'm happy for anyone going to a new company. Mr. Stumble says, why was there no Judgment Day members to help Dom at NXT? Because he was going to lose. Neither Mike says, I'm not sure tribalism is that bad. Isn't that what happens in sports? There is such a thing as positive tribalism, where people get behind and support their people. And there is negative tribalism, when people hate everything that isn't their people. That's how I personally see it. Chris says, I believe you said it looks likely that Jade is coming to WWE. KJ says, I hate Brian Alvarez too. No offense, but it's funny how AEW guys hate Brian and Meltzer despite them fanboying AEW. If anyone is tribalism, it's them. And C-Max says, Copeland is kind of showing tribalism. He reunited with Christian. The tribe is the benefit of flash photography. Sean says, wasn't a fan of Corbin going over Bron Breakker. Seems like there really aren't that many... Just seems like there really aren't that many plans in place for Bron Breakker. KJ, I'm not sure what you're going for there, mate. He's saying that I said it does look likely that Jade is coming to WWE. He's backing me up. Don't know if you've misread that or what, but he's literally backing me up. Wikipedia says negative tribalism was like the whole thing with the Zack Snyder fans trashing anyone who doesn't like his Justice League. Yes, positive tribalism is release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut. Negative tribalism is, I can't believe you don't like it, we worked for it. I can't believe you don't like it, you're wrong, etc, etc. Mr. Stumble says, are CM Punk and Nick Hausman friends again? Well, I can't even begin to speculate, can I? And Spider-Boss says, why do people keep asking if Mercedes is going to AEW? You've reported Mercedes will sign with AEW a couple of months ago. Yep, and not everyone has seen it. So if you haven't seen it, please do check it out. I do think it answers all of your questions. We've been live for 1 hour and 5 minutes. We've gone through plenty of news. I may have done KJ, but I still speculate and talk and say what I think is likely. Mr. Stumble says, does anyone in wrestling like Dave Meltzer? I mean, Dave Meltzer's technically in wrestling, so yeah, there are definitely people who do. He gets a lot of information right. Let's not argue that. He does get a lot of information right. I am going to wrap up. I want to say a huge thank you to all of you. We have hit 84 likes. We were at 50 before we were even 10 minutes in. We peaked at 95 viewers. It's been an incredible show, and I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you. Don't forget, we will be live on Wednesday for a live version of Nick and Tom's. But before I go, I just want to say, as always, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.